You are indeed a blessing to us. And now we're coming to a close with a little girl from Selma, Alabama, who has found her way all the way to Washington as a congresswoman, walking down the aisles of the White House and through the halls of Congress. Our own dedicated, our own Harriet Tubman, our own Sojourner Truth, Terry Sewell.
What an awesome day to be in Montgomery, Alabama. As a beneficiary of the movement, my challenge to all of you is now what? The real heroines of today and heroes of today are our foot soldiers. Let's give them a resounding round of applause. How truly blessed we are to witness on this day to have a full circle moment in which the full resources of the city of Montgomery, its police department, its fire department, its mayor, and the great state of Alabama, its governor, all in one place. What a sight! Who could have imagined? Who could have imagined? I say to you that the foot soldiers must have had that faith. Must have had that faith. For how else could they take each step? I know that the journey that many of us are on was only made possible because of their bravery, because of their sacrifice. And so I say to my generation and generations after us, what will be our legacy? How will we further their legacy? It's incumbent upon us to know that Rosa sat so that we could stand. Martin Luther King Jr., he preached to give us a voice. And these marchers, John Lewis, F.D. Reese, Cheyenne Webb, they marched so that we could vote. I say to you, are we honoring their legacy? The daughter of Martin Luther King Jr. just spoke so eloquently his words. I closed my eyes and I thought I was hearing him. Isn't it ironic that his words ring true today as they did 50 years ago? I say to you, it is but the grace of God. Because I know that I get to walk the halls of Congress as Alabama's first black congresswoman because of you, the foot soldiers. Isn't it poetic justice that a little black girl from Selma, Alabama gets to have that opportunity because 4 girls from Birmingham cannot? It is incumbent upon all of us as legacies and beneficiaries of the movement to do more than just give them one day of commemoration. I say to you that it matters what we do now. Old battles have become new again. There is a renewed assault on voting rights. You know, 2 weeks ago, 100 members of Congress, 2 presidents, 2 members of the first family, 1 grandmommy of the first family, and a whole bunch of you marched in Selma. But it's not enough that we march on one day, or even if we march today. What matters is what Congress will do now. It's not enough to have a come-by-our moment. We must restore the Voting Rights Act. A bipartisan effort, just as we bipartisanly marched across the bridge 2 weeks ago. It is with great pride and honor that I sponsored a bill to give a Congressional Gold Medal to our foot soldiers who marched in 1965, who marched on Bloody Sunday, Turnaround Tuesday, and the final march from Selma to Montgomery. But it's not about medals. I look forward to inviting all of our foot soldiers to our nation's capital and bestowing that medal. But we as Americans can do more to honor them. We can remember to vote in every election, local, state, and federal. That, to me, is the ultimate tribute to our foot soldiers. So I say to our foot soldiers, thank you. I know it is woefully inadequate, but we, this generation, and generations after us, know that we still have work to do. As long as our brown brothers and sisters face the same discrimination that we did 50 years ago, we have work to do. As long as there is a renewed assault on the Voting Rights Act, we have work to do. As long as 30% of the population who were formerly incarcerated cannot vote, even though they've been rehabilitated, we have work to do. I say to you that any effort that restricts one registered voter from voting is detrimental to the Voting Rights Act for all. I'm going to repeat that. Any effort that restricts even one registered voter from voting is a threat to all of us who vote. We must make sure that we don't relinquish our voices. We must remember we are here not just because they fought and they marched. We are here to make sure that doors are open, broke down so that others can walk through. And we can only do that if we learn from our foot soldiers. What did we learn? We learned that nonviolence works. We learned that collective action works. We learned that it's about having a strategy and executing it. It's about leadership. Let's use what we learn from these marchers and do our own marching, because the battle is still on. It has not been won. In closing, I wanted to say the words of Miss Amelia Boynton, who I'm not sure whether she's here today. As you know, she's 103, but she stood boldly 50 years ago on the Edmund Pettus Bridge doing Bloody Sunday. I was honored to have her as my special guest at the State of the Union this year. I was more honored to see her be received by the first African-American president. As he walked into the room, the holding room, before he gave his speech, he leaned down and he kissed her. And he said, Mrs. Boynton, I get to give a speech in a few minutes as the President of the United States of America. And I get to do it because of you. I was in tears. But do you know what Ms. Boynton said in response? She looked up at the President of the United States and she said, make it a good one. So I say to this generation and generations to come after, we owe it to these foot soldiers to make sure it's a good one. Every opportunity that we get because we stand on their shoulders. So let's make sure it's a good one. Everything that we do, every opportunity we have, we must vote to honor their legacy. Please, I ask of you, Alabama, the United States of America, let's make it a good one.